that I get to do is agent panels or conversations with agents in front of agents. Because I think sometimes it's fun to hear a different perspective. It's fun for me to hear how agents talk about Homeward, what we do, how this fits into their business. And then I really want this to be more of a conversation. I would hate for this to be me and Elizabeth having a longer conversation talking at you, but just to kind of hear your feedback. So before we jump into the agent panel interview part of what we're going to do, I wanted to start with just a couple of questions of you all around what you're seeing in the market, what that, how that's affecting you. And then behind that, make sure we have some at least high level understanding of what Homeward is, because we're going to talk about it for the next probably 30, 45 minutes. I want to make sure that you're familiar with who we are, what we do, before we just kind of.
So I know we have a brand new agent hiding in the very back corner back there.
How's it going? What's your name?
Kainoa.
Kainoa? I'm glad you're here.
So
Yep.
Kainoa week us, what, like last week before?
Week and a half.
Yeah. So he definitely is new to Homeward.
Great.
Yep. So we
Welcome. You're in a good spot.
We'll cover that.
Are you new to the business?
Yeah,
Awesome.
brand new.
Great place to stop. Great place to start. Yeah, great place to start.
Stop looking.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I think one of the most, and I'll say this, and I don't want to embarrass you by saying nice things, but a very caring, nurturing environment
Oh,
that you've created here that is very, very unique. Most places I walk into, it's like, hard charging sales environment, or, hey, you get nothing, stay out of my hair, I'm the broker, kiss my ring. And that's like, you're in a very different environment here. So great choice, and I'm glad you're all here. So how many of you are familiar with Homeward? All right, most people are. I'll give us a high level overview for you as well. How many of you have worked with us before? All right, hopefully this conversation will yield just some confidence for you to talk about what we do, because I think when you talk about what we do with prospects or clients or people, you'll find that they respond generally in a very positive way. And that's one of the questions I'm going to ask you about, is how do people respond to you? Homeward is a financial services company that's designed to help real estate agents solve their biggest problems. That's what we do. Every day we wake up and say, we got this humongous pile of money. It's like $500 million that we have raised last year. How do we deploy that money to solve your biggest challenges? The biggest challenge we started to solve was people who wanted to buy a home, they had a home to sell. Contingent buyers, double moves, or moving in with the in-laws is never fun. It doesn't work really, really well. It's not the most effective place to be if you're a buyer and a seller. So neither party wins on a contingent contract. So we stepped in to solve that problem. And along the way, the market, as you saw the last couple of years, went sort of berserk. And we were required, you had to be a cash buyer if you were going to compete. And so we became the cash offer people. Now that the market's moved a little bit, so let me make that more of a question rather than a statement. What are you guys seeing out there on the market right now? What are you seeing in the market?
a lot of crickets.
Crickets? Yeah. Yep. Crickets. Like people not wanting to see houses, people not calling.
Yeah, I mean,
listings,
yeah,
Like, what does that look like?
no showings, no calls, very little interest.
Mhm.
I
Why do you think that is?
mean, I think buyers are scared right now. I think they're scared of spending money. And so everybody's just kind of on hold, just waiting to see what's going to happen, or, and it's kind of, I feel like it's one of those things that it's like, until they hear that a brother or a friend or, somebody like has bought and had a success, then they're going to just keep holding off. Or, somebody advising them or whatever.
So fear has people stuck in their tracks. Fair way to say that. Anybody else? What are you all seeing in conversations or in activity on listings or with buyers you're working with? What are you seeing out there?
I think if it's priced appropriately, then you're gonna get action.
Mhm.
And that's what happened on my listing. It sat forever and
Mhm.
it finally got to the right price point, and we had multiples at that point. Which makes me wonder about the mentality of our buyers right now. They've been doing this for 2 years.
Right.
And they're used to the competition. So when there's not competition, I'm wondering if they're walking away thinking that's not a good product. I think the media is scaring them. But
I remember in 2011 when I was showing homes, I had a client and it hit me like 10 houses into showing houses to them, because everything we went into at the time had been on the market 120 to 180 days. And that was normal. Like every house, like if it didn't have 3 digits in the ADOM and MLS, it was like, oh, it's a new listing, right? And so they would ask, what's wrong with it? And so I found myself constantly handling the objection every single house. What's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it. It's a great house. It's a great price. You should buy it. but they were looking for the problems. Over the last 2 years, buyers are walking to the house and say, I see 1,000 problems. That's not going to stop me from making a ridiculous offer to buy this hunk of junk, right?
Yeah.
Now, the flip side is they're walking in looking for that problem. And now it's not 100 days before it becomes, what's the problem with this house? It's like 7 hours or 7 days or 7 weeks, right? Like there's a mindset adjustment for sure. Yeah, that's a really good point though. That price right homes are selling. I think that's what I heard. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, and people are what's wrong with that?
You can negotiate now, which you couldn't
right.
in the past.
Yep.
In the past year.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I think the whole price right conversation though is like also sellers can still access, honestly, they can access way too much information these days, right? Like you kind of wish we could had more control over that, but like, they're like, well, I saw on Zillow that the house across the street sold for $725. So why can't mine sell for $525? And I'm like, well, because that was 3 months ago. Like, and it's really hard to talk these people down. They have a number in their head already, or their county appraisal is higher than what the market value is today. And that's really screwing people because they're like, well, but I'm paying taxes on 400. So why isn't my house worth 400? And I'm like, nobody, nobody will pay that much. So, I mean, I'm definitely dealing with that with one of my clients where I keep telling them to price drop and they're like, how about we just drop 3,000? And I'm like, because it's not enough to get people in the house. Like, but at some point you just have to go, okay, well then we'll do what you want, and then you'll learn from this experience. And so will I. But yeah, I mean, price right is just like, it's so different now, just 3 months, than 3 months ago or whatever. And it's a hard conversation for people.
It's a tough conversation because it's kind of tough to tell what the right number is. Right.
Yeah, we're all guesstimating. Yeah.
So all that's a lot of what we're describing is negative, right? And I want to camp out there for a second because I think it's important for us to see not only is that what we're thinking, that's what our customers are thinking. So what do we do about that? We're professionals. People need to buy and sell homes. There's like 6 reasons people buy and sell homes. I'm gonna remember like 4 of them, but death, divorce, dependents, so they're growing, adding more kids to the house, relocation, so their job. Investment, trying to return on equity. There's always a 6th one I forget, but there's downsizing. Thank you. You're good. So these are the reasons people move. Life hasn't changed. People still need to move. What they need is a pro that can step in and say, I have solutions and a way to help you. In spite of all the things you're hearing, in spite of all the things that are true, interest rates went from 2.9% to 7.25% in about a 4-month period of time. Unprecedented. It's a word we used to use a lot, but that's where we are. The reality is people still need to buy and sell homes. And I think that I personally, this is my gut, we still have a housing shortage in the United States. We're still 4.5 million houses short of what we need for the human beings that live in this country. And we continue to grow through immigration and procreation. So we're going to keep having more people and we need more houses. So what happens when you have short supply and high demand? Well, right now demand's on pause. It's not gone, it's just on pause. All these people are going to get back in the market at some point when they feel like their friend, their cousin, their sister tells them the story that makes them have the confidence, the consumer confidence to get back into the game. We're going to have a boomerang effect in the market. I think right now is probably the best time to buy a home that I've seen in my 25 years of selling real estate. No lie. I drove to New Braunfels last week and found a pocket of 25 houses that me and a couple of friends are going to go try to buy as investments. Like if I know anybody that has the opportunity to invest in real estate today, if I'm a realtor helping people buy and sell homes like you guys do, I'm calling every investor I know. Builders are giving homes away. These are all brand new homes. Syntax Pulte, 10, 15, 20% off the house. They wouldn't take our phone call 6 months ago.
Right. Yeah.
Now they're giving us houses. So that's the market of the moment. So how do you take advantage of that? And that's part of what we want to talk about today is, and this will be less me talking, more conversation, but how do we maximize this market, but really more specifically, how do we think about and talk about a solution that you have at your disposal? We're partners with you, and what that means is that you have access to us to help your people utilize our cash offer and our buy before you sell solution to make a move. I think most people have a ton of equity in their home. Most people want to move, and they just need you to show them how. That's what we're here for. So I think that the thing that typically holds realtors back from talking about their solution, their Homeward solution with their clients, is either lack of understanding or fear of how the client's going to respond to this idea of doing something unique. Does that make sense?
I'm definitely lack of understanding.
Okay, well, we'll spend some time on understanding, and I'll stick around afterwards so we can have longer conversations around, make sure you have the understanding you need. I think that what I really want to hear from you is what, I think this is helpful to hear another agent rather, because I can tell you how I say what I say, and that might be great. But I think hearing a colleague is far more powerful. So when you talk to me about how you think about Homeward in your business, let's start with that.
How do I think? I mean, it's changed a lot, right? Like, from where I could kind of start with just like, I always thought it was a really cool program. I did try to pitch it to several clients when I first heard about it, when the market was booming and cash offers seemed like a benefit to get people into homes faster, right? And definitely anybody who's like written, 5 or 6 offers, like, I don't, I get tired of writing offers at, some point, like, you want people to start making a change. Like, obviously this is not working. We have to do something different. But I felt like probably, again, I was the agent who didn't really understand enough to explain the fees or, whatever, or the process. How I got into using Homeward was that I actually had a listing where somebody brought a Homeward client to us. And of course, my clients liked it. It was the tail end of the boom, I would say. They got lucky. They sold when they did, because they probably got way more than they could get today for it. But they came with this cash offer. It was a quick close. Seemed pretty solid. And so my client was so excited about it that he turned around and then bought another house with Homeward following that. So, because again, it was the tail end, but it was still pretty competitive at this exact moment. And he needed to move out of his house in 30 days because he had nowhere to go. And so it was like, he knew that, okay, I'm going to go with a cash offer. I'm going to be able to be competitive, and I'm going to be able to close quickly so I can go ahead and move into my new home. So he wasn't the cash before you buy. He just was straight a cash deal. And it was seamless. I liked that there was one point of contact for both deals, that like, I just had that person on text and I could text them any questions I had. I didn't have to, because too, like Homeward, you're going through like the buying process, the lending process, and the title company are all Homeward. And so it was just one point of contact for all those 3 different divisions. I didn't feel like I was getting emails from other people, but for the most part, if I had a question, I could go to this one person, and she could make sure to answer or direct me to the right person to talk to. So it all ran really smooth. They, obviously they handled appraisals, and that they do like a desktop appraisal, which is really nice because that happens during option period. So basically Homeward knows during option whether or not this house is worth their investment. So that way, you didn't get too far into the game before you committed to it, or whatever.
So a friend of mine used the analogy of the breakfast analogy of commitment. Have you heard this?
I don't know.
So if you're eating bacon and eggs, the chicken's involved, the pig is committed. And so we try to keep everything chicken involved until you're pig committed, but like we try to make sure that you have all the things you need to know before you get into the spot where you're stuck in a transaction that can go
right, like
sideways.
all the fees were very transparent from the beginning. He knew what he was getting himself into. I would be curious to know how that kind of goes by before you sell now, just because what if their house doesn't sell for 6 months, and then now they have to factor in that 6 months of rent, and that whole which I think is probably becoming more common now, right?
It is. It's taken longer for homes to sell. So it's definitely that is a factor that plays in is more rent.
Well, back then it was like you might pay 30 days of rent, and that was
now it's going to be 45 to 60. I think that with a cash offer, you can get a little bit more aggressive on the buy side. So you're not just having to pay what you got to pay to get the house. So if you're getting really aggressive, you might be getting enough of a good deal on the new home that it offsets the cost of the program.
Right. And that was the other thing. I told you that I have a client that it's a buyer that is approved with Homeward right now. And his entire reason for wanting to use Homeward is because every time he sees a house, he thinks he can offer 50 grand less than what it's listed for.
Right.
And he's like, but if I come with cash, they're going to accept my offer. And I'm like, we'll see, but
better chance of that today than a year ago.
Yeah, he does. Has a better chance for sure. But that's his whole mentality right now, is he wants a deal. He doesn't want to pay full price for anything. And he thinks, prices are dropping and I'm going to get this great deal. But if I come with cash, that's going to be my golden ticket to get the deal. And so that's why he's choosing to use Homeward, knowing of the fees involved and that kind of thing, which when you're a cash only, it's a very minimal fee.
Right, yeah,
Um,
very, very, very small. Yep, so a couple of things that you said when you were kind of tell us how you think about Homeward. One, you were really locked in at the point that you had an experience with us. And it was your listing, you received the Homeward offer, and that's when it clicked for you. And so I think I'm an experiential learner. Well, I'm a verbal processor and experiential learner. Most of you probably have some different learning styles, but really experience is a great learning opportunity. Jump in there, especially for if you're a brand new agent. The best way you're going to learn how to sell a house is to sell a house, right? So just jump in and like you're one phone call away from lots of experience. So just go for it. We're one phone call away. That's the other thing that you said that I love is that you had one primary point of contact. You can call at any point, text them, they'll get you answers. That's the case. We have somebody that's here watching out for you. So when you get started, so if it feels risky to jump in the waters on something that's new for you, and you haven't had the experience yet, but experience is what's going to get you confident for the next time and the next time and the next time. Just jump in and trust that somebody's going to be there. So you're going to have a primary point of contact. And just introduce the concept to a client as best you can. Call your primary point of contact, your Homeward advisor, and they're there to help you get started. And then behind that, the things like you mentioned the appraisal and how we've thoughtfully put the structure that in place. If we're real estate people, so we've thought through all the things and all the scenarios. Every now and again, we get that one random occurrence that we're like, hey, we got to figure out how to solve for this. But for the most part, we've experienced it all, either transactionally as agents ourselves or as a company walking through thousands of these transactions now. So we have very strategic things at every step of the way that are there to help make sure your clients aren't at risk. They've got their bases covered and that we've got everything thought through. So those are really kind of three big keys that I heard from you.
Yeah.
So thank you. It's really cool. And thank you for saying nice things about us. That makes my day. Next question for you. How, when you see a client, you see the opportunity, you say, hey, this is a buy before you sell or cash buy, whatever the scenario is, how do you introduce, because I think this is probably part of lack of understanding is a reason that holds people back, fear of looking like you don't know what you're talking about, hold your back. So how do you introduce the concept of Homeward to a client? If a client's a fit, what do you say to the client?
Yeah, so let me think. I actually had this conversation earlier today with a client. I'm trying to think of how did I mean, I think, you know, I started like, there's this company called Homeward that like, they're doing something a little different. They're able, you know, to offer you cash to, well, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like basically cash up front to purchase a home while your other one is listed. So you can go ahead and move into the new home while the other one sits vacant and is on the market. And in this case, it's because this client has already gone under contract on a house in another state and their house is not selling and they don't want to drop the price to what I think will sell it.
What state are they in?
They're in North Carolina.
We're not there yet.
Dang it. Okay, well, that's
Yeah,
not gonna work
yeah.
then. That was gonna be my question for later, but
Mhm.
so yeah, just I mean, you know, at this point we're like grasping at anything that's an alternative solution for
Yeah.
them. And so that's what it like this how this came up is
Mhm.
like, and honestly, they were already under contract for the house before they even came to me and told me they wanted to list here in, you know, in
Right.
Texas.
Yeah,
I was
people
like-
feel like they can get it the other way around and they just,
Yeah,
Because of
they
the
were
last couple of years,
totally,
right?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
they were way out of order on process of things, but
Yeah.
they did not ask for my guidance on that.
let's talk after this. I may have a solution for you.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, it's an alternative option when other traditional options aren't the right fit, like I think is the best way to
Yeah.
sum it up.
That's great. And so how do they respond to that when you introduce that typically? It's probably, there's
I
probably
mean,
variances,
yeah,
right?
it
Everybody's
depends.
different.
Like these guys are like, they would literally pay whatever fee as
Mm-hmm.
long as it meant they were still able to get their home that they
Right.
want, you know, like they're like, I don't care. What does it cost? Sure. Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But I had another client who lost out on a deal that we were trying to pull off. I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago that I kept trying to push Homeward on them.
Mhm.
Like, I think we can get this done if you go with Homeward. And they were like, oh, but I'm going to pay $7,000. And I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, you're getting your dream house for an additional $7,000. Like,
Right.
this is kind of dumb to say no to, you know? But yeah, they just couldn't see past this extra money that they were going to have to spend. And I mean, and at the end of the day, you can't make someone do it. It's just like they're okay, well, cool. Then you're not buying this house.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
sorry,
We
like this
recognize
is
that.
our final option here, you
Yeah.
know, but so yeah, people go both ways. It's really different. I honestly, it was very hard for me to pitch it to people before I had the experience. And then, you know, and I was lucky that the experience kind of just fell on my lap as opposed to me having to just you know,
Take that
out of,
risky step.
yeah, take that risky step.
Yep.
But I mean, I don't know. I think if anybody needs like a unique solution, then it's a no-brainer in my opinion, you know?
Yeah, that's great. Was that a
I
question?
think that if they're smart, they'll figure out that 1% is not, I had one that was in a short-term rental. And they only had 10 days left. They came to my open house. So I called my person
Mhm.
of contact, and I think they said you can close in 10 days. And so I called them, said, let's go look at houses this weekend. And it was Labor Day weekend. They were going to Southern California. So they got another short-term rental. But the point is, he's like, that sounds like a good idea because 1% I'll be paying in the short-term rental in no time, you know?
Right.
And so I'm still following up with them in their new short-term rental.
Mhm.
But also I listened to that class last week
Mhm.
with Christy
Mhm, mhm, Yep,
Frisco.
yep, yep.
And
Christy Keenan, yeah.
that was really cool. She has Homeward as part of her open houses.
Yep.
So I printed these, Hazel did these for me.
Nice.
And she has it as part of her buyer presentation, part of her listing presentation.
Yep.
And so you always put it out there that, like, one had a contingency on it, well, you don't have to have a contingency if you
Mhm.
refer, you're the listing agent, you're the buyer's agent, well, you have to buy this contingent, there you go, call Homeward.
Right.
And stuff.
Yeah, I have one of my good friends in San Antonio is selling a home. He's under contract. He's actually supposed to close tomorrow on a home in Vermont that he's buying. His buyer who's buying his home in San Antonio found out day before yesterday that their contract for their home they're selling in Nevada is the way they say it, I think, just fell out of contract. So he's like, what do I do? I'm like, well, you should have called me a long time ago, first of all, but he didn't know what I do and he's not a realtor. But yeah, so his buyer that's buying this moving from Nevada applied this morning, we'll get them approved. And so like we solved the contingency issue. So if it's your listing and you get a contingent offer, send them our way. I would gladly have a conversation with any client or agent. And I oftentimes will hop on the phone with the client as well and just explain to them what we do. And oftentimes they go, okay, cool, that solves our problem. And the listing agent is the hero of the day to their clients and to that potential buyer. So that's a lot of fun. So experiential knowledge, you introduce it, people generally like it. One of the things that you said that caught my attention, there's a variance in how people respond. And it's depending upon their motivation. So to me, what that says about the way that you're having these conversations with your clients is a consulting conversation. You're asking questions, you're understanding, why are we moving? What are we doing? Like you're doing the thing. And I think that's important for all of you to hear. It has nothing to do with Homeward, but like when you're in that listing presentation consultation or in a buyer consultation. And I love the word consultation because you are consultants. You're consulting people, you're giving people advice. And you can't give them advice until you know what their problem is. You can't solve their problem until you know their problem. And so asking smart questions, what's prompting you to want to move? I used to say, why do you want to move? But why puts people on the defensive. So what prompted is the replacement for why. That's just a semantic thing. And that was super helpful because then people will tell you what their dominant motivator is. And if you have a solution to solve their biggest problem, that's where you really bring value. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. So people respond to that. So you have the conversation. I love that you've got the one pager. Those are available to your agent dashboard. You can customize those. You can print them. You can bring them, make it part of your listing presentation. You show up at a listing appointment. You have the conversation at an open house or talking to a buyer. They say, yeah, I'm interested. What do you do from there?
They say, yeah, I'm interested in moving forward with Homeward.
Yep.
Oh, I send them to the website and have them fill out the
Perfect.
application.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was driving earlier and because I was coming here and so Homeward was on my mind and I was like, oh, maybe this will work for my clients. And so I immediately called him. I was like, go to the website, see if this will be a good fit. But yeah, I think their website is pretty informative and they can sign up right there. And because I've already worked with Homeward a few times, like as long as they put my name in there, it's like goes directly to my dashboard as well.
Yep.
And so I'll get notifications. It's like, hey, Alex was approved or, whatever.
Yep.
And then I can go in and see where it is along the process or whatever, and who's been assigned to the, because I guess I get a different person each time or
It should be the same person. We're
Yeah, I
trying
think
to. It
yeah,
just depends.
okay.
It's balancing workload.
I mean, who knows, the person that I had before maybe left,
Yeah,
but,
I don't know.
but yeah,
I'll
so
check.
you usually get somebody assigned to you and they'll reach out directly once approval is made and yeah.
So you're sending them to the website,
Mhm.
and there's two routes that you can go. One, and I think this is where you start to assess like their personality type. If it's somebody who wants a little bit of a chooser and adventure, they want to learn, they kind of want to know everything before they do anything, like your engineers typically, send them to the website, let them check it out. They'll ask all the questions, they'll get all the answers, and then they'll start that application process. Or if they don't move quick enough, you can also go through your dashboard. You can go to the website and you click on get started. You can put all their information in, and that prompts our team to reach out to the client on your behalf. So
Yeah.
if somebody needs a nudge, or if they're the type that like, I love the idea, let's do it, have somebody call me and we'll get started. That's a great space for.
I think that's smart. Yeah, you do have to kind of know your client, because I have had similar situations where I would tell, it was a different website, but I was like, yeah, just go on the website and put your information in, and they didn't do it. And so I was like, I'll go on the website and I'll put your information, and then it will basically send them a message to fulfill, whatever it is I've asked them to do. But yeah, just know your client. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's super helpful, is that, and our team is here to hold your hand through the process. And that's the thing I really want to reiterate to those that haven't referred a client or haven't had a client go through the process, and you have that trepidation, or that fear, or that thing that holds you back from taking the next step. I promise you, there's a person that's going to be there to hold your hand at every step of the way. And I promise they also know that they answer to all the questions, so that if you feel like you're stumped, that the number one line that you need, we're talking about Homeward, is, hey, let me get our Homeward advisor on the line, or let me schedule an appointment or a call with our Homeward advisor. Super simple. You'll have a dedicated advisor. If you haven't set up your account, I'll give you the link for that before we leave. But with that account, with the advisor, they're there to hold your hand at every turn. So
I can attest for that. My advisor, I call her with many questions in voice.
that's awesome. And your advisor is Hazel?
Hazel,
She's awesome. She's one of my favorites.
she actually said you can do this on camera. I was like, oh, I hate camera. She's like, send me your picture of your logo. I'll do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, our team, I mean, that's what they're there for. They're your concierge. They're to help you. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit from something we talked about a little bit on the phone the other day, that I think I want to really kind of drive home for folks, is as the market shifted, we've gone from a market where we feel like we're kind of being like, we got a tiger by the tail the last 2 years, to now it's actually time to like show up and do the things that we've always done as real estate agents, which is stay in touch with people, have conversations about real estate, and drive to opportunities rather than sit back and reactively wait for opportunities to come to us. Because I think everybody wants to send you business, but unless you remind them to do so, they may not do it with the fervency that you might desire. And so when I think about referrals, I think about people who would use you as a realtor. They need to know you're there, and they need to know how to get a hold of you. So that's a key component of where I think as the market shifts, like a couple months of like, let's take a breather. A couple people took some vacations. Now it's time to get back out and start driving to get more business. I see the board here, and the activities always breed results, lead to results. So I'm going to ask you, where have you gone to go get new clients?
To get new clients.
Yeah. If you're like, I need to sell a house next month,
Oh,
what are you doing today?
I mean, I do a ton of networking. I'm
Okay.
like very out in all of the networking, like any business networking circles that are happening between South Austin and San Marcos, pretty much.
Okay.
Those people know me.
So networking.
Yeah.
And what does networking mean to you?
I go to lots of meetings with other people who are business owners
Okay.
and have conversations, which I mean, I'll say like the most important thing about networking is you can't just show up to a lunch with like 30 people. You have to make sure that you have takeaways from that. Like, I am going to have coffee with 3 people from this meeting today, or
Yeah.
that kind of thing, because you have to make that one-on-one connection, which I mean, like it's to the point where I've been doing this for long enough now that like I have like crews of networking
Yeah.
people that are my friends now,
Yeah,
or
that's awesome.
whatever.
And you
so.
probably hang out with them just because you like them.
Yeah, no, I know all the moms in the group, and we get kids together and just, I mean, yeah.
That's
it's a big
fantastic.
thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So did you guys hear that? How many of you guys are part of networking groups? I got one of these. How many will be a part of a networking group soon? You should. It's super fruitful. That's an idea. I mean, there's lots of places where you can connect with people, but when you're in those networking groups, you're getting to know people. You have an expectation of a plan, it sounds like.
Yeah.
You walk away from there saying, hey, I'm going to have lunch or coffee with this person. What's the point of the coffee or the lunch, the conversation, or even showing up at the networking event? Like, what's the one thing that you're doing there that
I mean,
leads
I'm
to
building
business?
relationships. So like, that's like, I guess, the alternative is you join like, Austin Sports and Social League and you're making friends with all those people and you're like somehow dropping in that you're a realtor on a regular basis. Like, it's just that I am networking with small business owners.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
If I can
sure.
interrupt? When you introduce that you're a realtor, do people want to talk about real estate?
Oh, yeah, no, every
How many of
single
you guys?
time. Well, people
Yeah.
actually like kind of get in my personal space after meetings and everybody wants to ask me real estate questions.
Yeah.
So like, that's something that I've had to like learn to figure out how to deal with, because it's like, I will get swarmed.
Yep.
And everybody wants to, oh my God, this market is so crazy. And I'm like, yeah, we always say the market is crazy. It's just a different kind of crazy today than it was,
Yeah.
last week.
Yep.
So yeah, everybody is super interested and everybody has questions. I sat across from a woman today who was like, yeah, so my daughter was only approved for this much. And I was like, does she have a realtor? Yeah, but he won't return her phone calls. And I'm like, okay, here's my card. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah. So, anyways.
Yeah, I love that. So you're having conversations, the conversations go to real estate. You obviously have something of value that you're talking to them about because they keep swarming up to you and invading your personal space. So like they want to hear from you. So, which means you're probably pretty knowledgeable about what's going on in the market. You can talk about it fairly eloquently. And I've seen, yeah.
Yeah.
So be informed of the market, have conversations. The more people you talk to, the more likely you're going to run across somebody that wants to buy or sell a home. Whether it's through a structured networking group or through just getting to know people, whether it's in your neighborhood, your kid's school, or whatever you do for fun, like with other people.
Yeah.
If you're not talking to other people, we should talk after this. Yeah.
I have a question
Sure.
about networking. I was literally just last night, it was on my mind and I asked my mom, was like, we're your divorce attorney.
Yeah.
But she's in Dallas, so I was like, well, that doesn't help. But when you're networking, you're in the back of your mind, your end goal is like hoping to keep in touch for referrals. Or no?
Yes. Yeah.
But how do you approach it? Because I guess whenever I'm like, in my mind, I'm gonna ask someone, hey, wanna go have lunch? Like, let's get to know each other. But how do you slide it in real estate while you're at lunch? Or
So yeah, so I actually do a coaching program and they have this thing called the mayor campaign. And it's like you go through the process of saying like, hey, do you have a realtor that you use on a regular basis or that you would refer to? And if they say no, then it's easy to be like, okay, how can I be that for you? And if they say yes, you can be like, okay, well, if at any point that person is no longer part of your life or, whatever, like, or no longer a realtor,
How's their
I would love to be the
Yeah.
second, or something like that. And so it's like you verify people and then like you can choose then to nurture that relationship or not. Like if they already have a realtor, then maybe you decide I don't have a lot of time and I want to spend that time with other people, or whatever. But if you really just like the person and you think that you could bring them around to being, your referral in the future. I mean, I network with a bunch of people who already know realtors, but I have now built relationships with these people. Like one of them, like she knows at least 3 other realtors, but we have family dinner at my house twice a month and she comes with her kids. I'm pretty sure that if she was going to buy or sell, she would use me at this point, so you have to just kind of decide like how far. And I think too, it's like, you can't just show up to the networking events. You have to become these people's inner circle, like it's way bigger than that.
Yep. That's really cool.
Don't you also ask them how you can help them too?
Oh yeah. I mean, but that's stuff we like, that's pretty normal to have that conversation in the networking meeting. Like as you're going around and you're introducing yourself, like the number one question people are going to ask for you to also say is, what's your best referral partner? So like for me, I'm always looking to, make friends with contractors, anybody in home services, obviously insurance agents and some lenders, but they know a lot of realtors as well. So, so yeah, that's something you want to be thinking about is like, who's a good referral partner for me? And then people,
Or for a partner, somebody you would send business to.
or vice versa.
Right.
I mean, like,
But it's a
right?
two-way street. I guess
Yeah,
is what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah. And then once you start sending business to someone, the hope is that they're going to start sending business back, right? Like I have a referral partner that's a roofer. Like hopefully if I send my clients to him, at some point when it comes to somebody, his friends asking about a real estate agent, he's going to be like, well, Elizabeth just sent me 3 clients. So, so yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's, I think there's also the same coaching program talks about the law of reciprocity. If you give things away, people are going to you're obligated to give back. So like if you're giving referrals to people or you're solving people's problems that you're not getting paid for, they're gonna
Yeah.
automatically think of, hey, I kind of owe you. There's just like,
I'm to a point where like you can legit probably ask me for any business you need a name
Mhm.
contact to, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I got a guy. Like that's why I've been,
Mhm.
small businesses, I don't know, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
when
just-
I was actually selling real estate, I had people that made fun of me because that was always my line. Oh, I got a guy,
Yeah.
or I got a
yeah.
person. And they go, oh, I'm sure you got a guy, right? I need this. And I'm like, yeah, I got a guy. And then like, that was like always the answer. And so people came to me for referrals to handymen, painters, divorce attorneys, develop a relationship with a local divorce attorney.
Divorce
That's
attorneys,
why I asked my mom.
CPAs, financial planners,
Yep.
state attorneys, all attorneys and financial people we call them whales because
Mhm.
they can bring you a lot of business. I know agents who will join their association. So like the Divorce Attorney Association of Austin, they'll join that as a vendor, go to all those networking events and tell all the attorneys, like, I'm sure you know realtors, but I specialize in Bastrop or I specialize in Hayes County or whatever. So if you have client needs for that county, here's my info, and then you stay in touch with them because they're gonna lose your card and they'll forget about you at that meeting, but you stay in touch and remind them and remind them and remind them.
And I'm gonna make a shameless plug for Homeward
No longer here.
well, it's not, but it is. I would rather just see, like, I like the conversation, but interesting coincidence, at 10 a.m. this morning, I got a call from the head of the Collaborative Divorce Association of Attorneys for the state of Texas. He called me. He was a referral from my best friend, who's an attorney who had a trial case with him. But he called me and he said, hey, I heard about your Homeward program from my friend Dana, who's my best friend from high school, who's also part of the whole San Antonio situation I was telling you about. He said, hey, I heard about your program. I'm a collaborative law divorce attorney, and I have a network of 500 super productive divorce attorneys. We oftentimes have people who are going through a divorce. They own a home together, and one of the two wants to go buy a new home, but they can't buy the new home while they're still married.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's true.
Guess what happens when Homeward buys a home? It doesn't get attached to their marital estate. So we're actually a great solution for somebody going through a divorce because we can go buy the new home. The spouse who wants the new home can move into that new home. They become not spouses anymore. They then sell the old home and they buy the new home. The individual buys the new home back from Homeward. So we've just solved the divorce problem.
That's a brilliant. I didn't
With
even
Homeward.
think of that.
Yeah.
I tell agents all the time, oh, they can't close on that until they are divorced.
Yeah, you can't, you're stuck in a divorce. Your only
So
option.
you guys hold out closing till the divorce is finalized too? Okay.
We need to be in the
Because
90.
my clients were going through a divorce and they did not do that. They were still married when he bought the new house, but she had to sign off like a. whatever,
Yeah, with
you know.
quick claim deed and all that stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
So there's some parameters to that. Like they're just starting a contentious divorce, or we're probably not going to jump in and buy a house for them just yet.
Yeah.
We're gonna wait till they have a settlement and they're in that cooling off period, which I think is 60 days now in Texas, maybe it's 90 days. When we're at that 60-day mark, we can go ahead and buy a home for one of the spouses. And so the reason I bring that up is shifting that from like the one, the needle in a haystack opportunity where that may come into play and you say, oh, cool, I can use Homeward. But what if you took that solution and you went to the divorce attorney?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. I'm sure you hear from lots of realtors that want referrals to your clients. I have a program. So talk about it as I have a program where we can help your divorcing clients. One of them go buy a home with our cash outside of the marital estate. And then when they finalize the divorce, they can buy back from us.
To that point, how long can they rent the house from you before they have to buy it?
6 months. So they have 6 months to finalize divorce, sell old home. That's specifically for people who are selling a home and buying.
Right.
But most people have, if they're going through divorce, most of their equities tied up in the old home. That's the one thing. I mean, this guy's like the guy for divorces in the state of Texas. And I was like, what's the pain point? He goes, well, it's always all the net worth of the marital estate is tied up in the real estate. And they have to unlock that either through a refinance or a sale of a property before they can finalize the divorce. And then they finalize the divorce and then they can move on to whatever they're doing. But Homeward bridges that gap. We can buy the new house, but then finalize divorce, sell the old house and buy it back from us. So great reason to call divorce attorneys. So if you have networks where you have divorce attorneys or attorneys in general that practice family law, pitch them like, hey, can I be your realtor? I have a program that can help. And it's a really clever solution in a divorce situation. And the divorce attorney is going to go, okay, I hear from 1,000 realtors who want me to send them their business, but you're the only one that actually brings a solution that solves my problem.
Yeah, I actually have somebody I can pitch that to.
Do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to share a problem that we've been using recently. We've run into, I'm helping Chad with his listings, and he just went on a listing appointment and they have 4 dogs. And so like, while now the market has shifted and the contingency may or may not get accepted on a buy, we still don't want to put that home on the market until we get them out with the 4 dogs. You
Right.
know, like what needs to be done on this
So
house.
4 dogs add value to a house. Is what you're saying.
1000%.
Make it super easy to sell.
Super easy.
It smells great.
Dog lovers, come on over.
It's like a staging
Yeah.
opportunity. Yes.
So.
Did I ever tell you the
that's-
story of our iguana?
Yes.
Yeah, so we had a
Yes.
similar situation. We had a seller who had an iguana in their house. The iguanas smell bad, they look bad. You had to paint the room like black, the whole, all the windows and everything. And it's just like, it doesn't show well. And so same thing as 4 dogs. So
I've walked
those-
into a house with snake before and been like, oh, I'm not going to even go in that room. I'm not doing it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there are people that won't enter a home if there's dogs barking. I mean, like, it's just an impediment. So when you talk.
Or I have a client who I can't even show the house because she's never available to let her dogs out, nor will she let me let her dogs out. It's so
Yeah.
annoying.
Yeah, or hoarders.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, how many of you walk into a house? I think if I can put a button on like all the different use cases for what you just described, do you ever walk into a listing that you say, gosh, if you really, maybe you don't say this out loud, at least not the first thing you say, but like in your mind, the first thing you think is, gosh, it'd be really, 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 really cool if you guys didn't live here when I was trying to sell this house.
Yes, every time, pretty much. Yeah.
Yep. Homeward solves that problem. Every single time you walk into a listing that needs them to get out, let us go buy a new home for them, let them move into the new home, give them a couple weeks to get all the stuff out, paint, carpet, list that old home, get it sold for top dollar. Super, super simple.
It's gonna become more and more important in the market shift because
Yeah.
these homes have to be in good condition or they're just gonna get ignored.
Yeah. I mean, for the last 2 years, I don't think stagers had a whole lot of work to do. And most realtors were putting homes in MLS with like 2 pictures, and it was like a picture of the sky and a picture of the backyard. You know, it was like
That's all it
minimal
took,
effort.
yeah.
That's all it took to get 35 offers and 100,000 over list price. And it was.
Now we actually have to
I
work.
know, this whole work thing.
I know, I'm like working way harder for way less money these days.
But like the Feeney says, opportunity often shows up dressed in overalls looking a lot like work.
Mm,
And that's what we have the opportunity to do, is to look for those solutions. So divorce, so I've heard a couple of divorce, your networking group, walk into a listing that has 4 dogs, all those situations, you can think Homeward, because we do provide a solution, an opportunity for you to bring something else to the table. I think it's been said by several of us, most people, whether it's a divorce attorney or a networking group, most people know more than one realtor. Statistically, I think they say that the average person has 7 if they're avid or an active Facebook user, they have 7 realtors as friends on Facebook, at least. And most of the realtors are posting lots of things about their business. So they're constantly seeing you plus the 6 others. How do you stand out in a sea of sameness? How do you step apart from what's going on out there?
Okay, so you guys have stock social media posts that we can
We
access?
do.
Okay.
There
never tried
there are
that.
16 social media posts on your agent dashboard. So if you don't have an agent dashboard, it's homeward.com/start. You fill out the form, you click access, and then I can actually, I could probably, if you want to put on the screen, well, that's probably too much work, but there's, on the left side, it says agent resources in your dashboard. You click on agent resources, there's the one pagers like what you have there. There's also, I think it's 16 or maybe 18 social media posts. They're all customizable in Canva. And your Hazel, your home advisor can help you with that if you need help with Canva. And then behind that, down below that, there's email templates that are fantastic. Right before you sell an email template, you send it out to a bunch of people. So this is where, like, if you have your item of value send out monthly, if you could send a letter that talks about your buy before you sell solution, and then follow it up with a phone call. Check-in call. How you doing? I did that system for like 20 years. So, but yeah, that's a great space. So send the email, follow up with a phone call. It's all there for you. It's easy to spark the conversation. I think that's the thing that I wanted to kind of hone in on and kind of come back to the beginning. Every single one of these situations where you've used Homeward, where you've gained a client because of Homeward. Even if they don't use Homeward, gaining a client because of us makes me happy.
I have a question. Okay. So I recently tried to run this experiment with Home Partners. Are you familiar with them? And like, it was really easy to go into their portal and like type in an actual address.
Mhm.
And then like right away, you could see like what rent would be on that
Mhm.
house for the first 3 years. And then what it would be if they bought it in a year, 2 years, 3,
Right, yep.
whatever. Do you guys have a portal interface like that where you could actually put in an address and it would say what the fees would be?
We typically let the advisor calculate that on the line with the client. So, so you can check in with your advisor or you can just text me. I'm happy to help with that.
I think-
Yeah, 0 days with in-laws. That's one of my favorite. We have a great little tongue-in-cheek marketing. I'll send it to you. It's so funny. We did the headline sponsor at Inman last year, and we had a commercial that we played that was really funny about, yeah, what we do. But yes, so there are tons of assets and access to emails and templates, all kinds of stuff there. And the rental rate is a static rate. It's just 0.0072 times the purchase price. And the fee is always 1% when they use our mortgage company. Buy before you sell.
Yeah.
And 0 on the other one. But our team will take care of making sure and communicate that and answer all the questions for the client.
So in this market, I know before it was the advantage of using Homeward kind of was the cash
Right.
side of it. So you're saying divorces, maybe getting out of a rental
Mhm.
so that they can purchase something quickly.
Yep.
You're saying if you need them out of the house,
Mhm.
what else is the advantage, of
I think that cash offer, being able to get a slightly better price, maybe,
Mhm.
maybe.
And in some price points, you'll still run into multiple offers, so the cash may be a much better.
So if it's a
But-
multiple
But the
situation.
minute your buyer, like it's a contingent, and has a home to sell, like I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Chad, last 2 listings that just closed, both were Homeward buyers
Yeah.
because we didn't want to take contingencies. So,
So on the other side, with their house being vacant, they're just gonna pay rental until it sells, and if it doesn't sell in
Well,
that
it's a
6
max,
months, then,
so-
Yeah, we'll buy it for them at the preset price.
okay.
They're also not paying that rent every month.
Okay.
It all gets deferred and stacks up at the end.
Okay.
And it gets baked into the price of what they pay for the home, closing
Oh, that's
costs.
good to know.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the rent gets deferred to the end. So timeline, your clients apply, it costs them nothing, no obligation. They're approved, you go find a house, you make an offer, the offer gets accepted, it's the first check your clients write, it's the earnest money, it's 2%.
Mhm.
They don't write another check, well, inspections and that sort of stuff, but they don't write another check until the day that they own the home.
So they could live in the house for 6 months for free?
Yes,
Wow.
they're making mortgage payments on the old home.
I mean,
Yeah,
oh, on the, oh, yeah.
yeah, so they've still got their own
Yes,
mortgage
that
payment.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
But-
like,
but
wait,
they-
what?
but they don't pay that until the end of the process. And when they close, it's right there. It's a-
Does someone use Homeward without a realtor? Like
No.
if so if I told somebody about it at an open house and they on their own went and researched you and tried to apply, like what would happen at that point? Would you say?
4 times, where it's scripted, 4 times we will ask them who their realtor is. Which realtor are you gonna use? I think there's 2 other ways we say it, but we say it 4 times. Because oftentimes people think sometimes that if I go into a builder's office and I say I don't have a realtor, I get a better deal. That is not the case with us. They have to use a realtor. Hey, we're gonna require you to use a realtor. Do you have somebody that can help you out here? Yeah, we don't refer them to a realtor
Okay.
very specifically
So if
because.
they come to you on their own, they
Yeah.
have to then also sign.
So my suggestion would be, and for the safety of your sellers, you should probably have everybody register an open house with a name, phone number, and email address. Make them do that as part of the process. And then at the end say, hey, why don't I have somebody reach out to you? Like, I'd love for you to go check out the website. If I can have somebody reach out and answer all your questions, would that help? And then you just go to your dashboard and you click on get a client started. And that closes that gap. It also, so my buddy Grant, I think we did a call with Grant a while back. He always has them register, and then with their permission, he'll put them into our system. And that's how he determines how motivated they are. If they won't take the next step, he's not going to work with them. If they do take the next step and they start the application or they engage with the Homeward team, he knows they're interested. If they go all the way to approved quickly, he's booking an appointment to go show them homes. Yeah. So those are lots of use cases for kind of where we fit. Anything else you would want them to know about? I know we're probably close to time.
I don't think so. I mean, I think, again, like my best selling point of the whole thing was just having that one point of contact through the multiple divisions.
Mhm.
And it was just like it was just super easy. I mean, it was super easy.
Yeah.
Um,
It's,
And they are available on weekends.
oh yeah, for sure.
we work realtor hours. We know when stuff gets done. Yes, sir.
So kind of two questions. One, you said you have like the preset price that you will buy the house for
Mhm.
if it doesn't sell.
Yeah.
Is there like a percentage
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
of like market value?
Yeah, so we set a fair market value for the home. And that's typically, we look at your CMA, we look at what's going on in the market. It's gonna be on if there's a range of, like, homes are it's gonna sell in this range, we're probably gonna take the lower end of the range. It's gonna be 92% of that number.
What about purchase buyers? So the majority of the people I speak to are first buyers.
We're a great solution for them. We can go make that aggressive cash offer. And with that program, when they use our mortgage company, we waive the convenience fee. So all they have is rent, and it's typically a month worth of rent. So we do a quick close cash offer. That's actually what I'm doing with these investors as well. So it works with investors or first time home buyers. So the homes we're going to buy in New Braunfels, me and a handful of friends, every one of them is going to be a Homeward offer. 14-day cash close, buying from a builder who wants to get the home off their books by the end of their financial year, which is October 30th. So I'm telling them, hey, 14-day cash close, what kind of deal can we get? So that's the conversation with your first time home buyer is, let's go use cash to make a good offer.
But I have someone, the only downside is I'm waiting for him to get pre-approved.
Mhm.
It's been a while.
Yep.
Oh, I think they're cool.
Yeah, well, he's speaking to Travis. But
Yeah.
and
Well,
CMA,
have them talk to both. I think I advise them, as weird as it may sound, like we have a mortgage company, we make money in the mortgage business. Our core business is through the fees and the way we run our services. But have them talk to another lender too. Like, get a competitive rate quote for them
Yeah.
and let them compete. If we're not the most competitive lender, which we generally are, but if we're not, like, you owe it to your clients to make sure they're shopping the right and getting the best deal possible.
Yeah, and then you mentioned that y'all can close on a home within 10 days.
10 days, I like to say 14,
or
give our
something,
time. Our
Because he's now he's very eager to move.
Yeah.
It was 6 months, but he's tired of his current living situation.
Yep.
And he also is in the middle of a divorce that's not finalized. There's no home that needs to be sold though.
Gotcha.
But
It's gonna be a good fit. Yeah, we should talk after this. I'll make sure that you get somebody on the case that can take care of you.
Can you repeat that 92% of what yours?
92% of fair market value is our floor price.
To purchase?
So like if they've bought the home for them and you can't get your home sold to buy the home,
Right. We'll buy the old home
they'll buy it.
After 6 months.
after 6 months.
Oh, the one you have listed.
No, the one you have listed. Yeah, their old home. So if they're selling 123 Main Street to buy,
And I
Yeah.
think at that point, the realtor's out, right?
that's right.
After 6 months,
Yeah.
if you haven't sold the house as the realtor. So that's something you
So
should
if
know.
we step in
if
and
you're
buy it,
listening.
yes, if
Right.
we step in and buy it at the end of 6 months, there are no commissions.
I mean, after 6
We're
months,
just buying it.
your client's
Yeah,
probably gonna
that-
fire you
we've
anyway.
tried to do that.
Yeah, we
Um,
would love to pay you to not sell houses, but unfortunately, it's set up so that if you sell the house, you get paid. If not,
Which actually makes me think of a really interesting thing. It's like not really related to Homeward, but I talked to a friend who is in the real estate, like investment side of the business. And she knows this agent that she works with on a regular basis, who she's like, well, I don't know what she's doing different, but she's going in and she's selling these properties in 3 or 5 days or whatever. And she said, another agent tried to sell it for 6 months. It's been sitting on the market and she's swooping in after it's expired and then selling it. And I was like, well, she's probably finally convinced the person to sell it for the right price.
Right.
And that poor agent that tried to sell it for 6 months was probably, they just weren't listening to it. And when a second agent swoops in and goes, oh no, you should be at this price, then they're gonna finally listen to the second one. So it's a good time to be checking expireds, I think, is
Yes.
kind of,
Yep.